Hello there, I'm Anita Roo and you're watching Nightline, news making the headlines. Government announces special Idul Fitri aid for civil servants and retirees. And 11 more Awas cameras to be installed at accident-prone locations along the North-South Expressway. We kick off the bulletin with good news for all civil servants and retirees. In conjunction with the Idul Fitri celebration, the government has agreed to provide a 400 ringgit special aid for civil servants with grade 56 and below and 225 ringgit for retirees. The special aid will be disbursed on May 24th. The announcement was made by Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad in a statement posted on his Facebook account on Thursday. He said the payment was an appreciation to the civil servants for their hard work in helping the government fulfill its promises. The special aid will involve a total payout of 855 million ringgit for nearly 1.5 million civil servants and 800,000 retirees. On April 30th, the Congress of Unions of Employees in the Public and Civil Services, or QPACs, said it would ask the federal government to give an Idul Fitri bonus to all civil servants in the country. Last year, the government gave a 400 ringgit bonus to civil servants in grade 41 and below and 200 ringgit to government pensioners. Meanwhile, the Kedah government has approved a 1,000 ringgit bonus for all state civil servants for the coming Hari Raya Idul Fitri next month. Announcing this on Thursday, Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Mukhriz Tun Mahathir said the payment was given as the state had enjoyed higher revenue for the first quarter of 2019 compared to the same period last year.
Setelah pendapatan ataupun hasil negeri telah meningkat bagi suku utama 2019 ini berbanding dengan tempoh yang sama tahun lepas, kemudian ada penjimatan perbelanjaan oleh pelbagai jabatan di bawah kerajaan, maka memang wajarlah untuk kita memberi imbuhan tersebut.
The bonus, which will be paid on May 30th, is set to benefit 4,711 state civil servants, including 316 contract and temporary officers. Malaysia's economy grew by 4.5% in the first quarter of 2019, driven by private sector activity as the key driver of growth. This growth, however, is lower compared to 4.7% recorded in the fourth quarter of 2018 due to normalisation in household spending, weak investment activity and decline in oil and natural gas output due to unplanned shutdown of production facilities.
Growth was supported by a strong recovery in the agriculture sector, which grew by 5.6%, as opposed to a contraction of 0.1% in the fourth quarter of last year. This is driven mainly by the significant improvements in the production of crude palm oil and natural rubber.
It is understood that the headline inflation increases 0.2% in March. Foreign direct investments improved under the period, amounting to 21.7 billion ringgit versus 12.9 billion for fourth quarter 2018. Japan, Austria and Hong Kong were the largest contributors of FDI. For the period under review, the services sector went up by 6.4%, while the manufacturing sector grew 4.2%. Mining and quarrying dipped 2.1%, while construction inched 0.3% versus 2.6% growth recorded in the last quarter of 2018. In the meantime, Bank Negara maintains its GDP forecasts of between 4.3 and 4.8% for the year. The private sector demand is expected to remain the anchor of growth amid lower public sector spending.
Capacity expansion in key industries and gradual recovery in commodity sector. This has been our baseline projection since March and remains to be the case. It is clear that downside risks remain in the immediate horizon, stemming mainly from external factors. We will continue to monitor this risk and its implications on overall growth trajectory.
The central bank also expects the headline inflation to average between 0.7% and 1.7% in 2019. Meanwhile, the central bank has also announced 6 new initiatives to deepen the country's financial market. Among the measures are to increase repo market liquidity and flexibility, enhancement to the Malaysian government securities futures market, greater flexibility to manage forex risks, plus simplifying forex trade and documentation process, as well as improving ringgit liquidity beyond local trading hours.
So I'm sure that you're asking whether all these measures are in response to the FTSE Russell measure that they may exclude Malaysia from the Week B index. Yes, this would partly address some of the reasons for the downgrade of Malaysian bond, and this will enhance the accessibility of the investors to the onshore hedging program.
The central bank is working with Securities Commission Malaysia, Bursa Malaysia and key market players to enhance the delivery mechanisms for MGS futures settlements to further develop an effective hedging platform for investors. Meanwhile, for the forex market, Bank Negara is expanding its dynamic hedging program to include trust banks and global custodians. The National Higher Education Fund Corporation, or PTPTN's unpaid loans are expected to hit over 100 billion ringgit by 2040 if borrowers with monthly income of below 4,000 ringgit are allowed to defer their loan repayments. PTPTN Chairman Wan Saiful Wanjan said the deferment will also significantly reduce the fund's annual loan collection to 950 million ringgit from around 3 billion ringgit annually in the last 3 years.
Maka bila jumlah pinjaman ataupun jumlah hutang PTPTN kepada institusi kewangan boleh meningkat sehingga 100 bilion ringgit. Ini satu jumlah yang amat besarlah, dan bebanan ini terpaksa ditanggung oleh kerajaan. Ramai yang mungkin bagi komen kata tak apalah kerajaan bayar. Sebenarnya bila kerajaan bayar tu rakyat juga yang bayar. Bila kerajaan terpaksa bayar hutang, maka apa yang berlaku ialah mungkin cukai terpaksa dinaikkan, mungkin insentif-insentif terpaksa dikurangkan, mungkin belanjawan terpaksa dikurangkan pada kementerian-kementerian.
Speaking at a media briefing in Kuala Lumpur on Thursday, Wan Saiful said to date, 68% of PTPTN borrowers earn less than 4,000 ringgit per month. He added a study showed that it would take between 6 and 15 years for borrowers in this category to acquire a monthly income of 4,000 ringgit and above. This would mean that such borrowers could only start paying their student loans at ages between 29 and 38. In view of this, PTPTN is calling on the public to participate in its online survey to gauge their views on the best repayment method for all borrowers. There will be 11 more automated awareness safety system or AWAS cameras installed at accident-prone locations to improve road safety. Deputy Transport Minister Datuk Kamaruddin Jaafar said the initial costs of installing the cameras along the North-South Expressway would be borne by Plus Malaysia Berhad for a stipulated time. Speaking to the media after witnessing the handover of 10 enforcement vehicles from Plus to the Road Transport Department at Persada Plus in Subang, Selangor on Thursday, Datuk Kamaruddin said one of the locations is the Menorah Tunnel in Ipoh, where accidents frequently occur.
Daripada kamera awas yang sedia ada 18 biji, 19 biji, dicampur lagi dengan 11 biji yang akan ditambah di tempat-tempat yang akan diputuskan setelah kajian dibuat bersama oleh pihak Plus, pihak Myros, di mana kes-kes kemalangan yang terbanyak yang kerap, di situlah akan diletakkan, saya fikirlah, kamera-kamera awas ini.
He added that the enforcement will still be done by the Road Transport Department. He said based on studies conducted by his ministry, the presence of cameras are very effective in curbing drivers from driving above the speed limit. Datuk Kamaruddin also confirmed that Plus will bear the cost of the 11 units of new cameras estimated at 3 million ringgit, in addition to the regular maintenance costs. Teachers are urged to prepare their students to face disruptive changes as a result of the implementation of new and advanced technologies. Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad said the move is crucial as the national education system requires a paradigm shift to ensure that it would remain relevant.
Namun begitu, penambahbaikan perlu berterusan dan kita perlu bersedia dan menyediakan murid-murid kita untuk menghadapi perubahan-perubahan disruptif hasil dari teknologi-teknologi baru dan canggih. tuan-tuan dan puan-puan serta warga pendidik sekalian. Di samping kita mengejar kejayaan akademik, saya ingin tegaskan 3 nilai yang perlu dipegang dan diamalkan seluruh rakyat Malaysia untuk kekal maju serta berjaya dalam sesuatu bidang yang diceburi, yaitu sifat rajin, amanah dan berdisiplin.
Tun Dr. Mahathir said this when launching the National Teachers' Day celebration in Bayan Lepas, Pulau Pinang on Thursday. He said the explosion of technology and the digital revolution have witnessed a drastic change in the global environment, which requires the national education system to always be compatible with technology development. He stressed that the government's commitment to ensuring that priority would be given to the education sector was proven with the allocation of 60.2 billion ringgit, or 19.1% of the total budget this year. Malaysia has received the confirmation from the United Nations on Malaysia's withdrawal from the instrument of accession to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, ICC. The notice dated May 15th from the UN was posted on Wisma Putra's official media social platform on Thursday. According to the notice, the UN Secretary-General communicates that Malaysia's withdrawal from the instrument of accession was effected on April 29th, 2019. The UN notice also stated that the notification on the withdrawal was received from Malaysia's foreign minister. The Rome Statute is the treaty that establishes the ICC. The Defence Ministry has lodged more reports with the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, over 14 questionable projects linked to the ministry involving land swaps. The projects were among a total of 16 investigated by the Governance, Procurement and Finance Investigating Committee, led by former Auditor General Tan Sri Amrin Buang. The police reports were lodged by Special Officer to the Defence Minister, Muhammad Nasai Ismail, at the MACC headquarters on Thursday. The reports involved the development of 11th Brigade Camp and Defence Storage Depot in Serendah, sports facilities in Sungai Besi Camp, and a privatisation project to build a transit camp, as well as the Regiment 502 Askar Wataniah Camp in Kuala Lumpur. The Defence Ministry had earlier reported to the MACC on the questionable development of military camps and facilities in Hutan Melintang in Bagan Datuk and in Paloh, Kluang. According to Nasai, the 16 land swap deals involved 2,923 acres belonging to the government, valued at 4.7 billion ringgit.
Kebimbangan kita ialah bukan sekadar kerajaan kehilangan ataupun kerugian dalam bentuk wang ringgit di atas kegagalan projek ini, tetapi juga kita berdepan dengan ancaman apabila pembangunan tidak dibina berasaskan kepada keperluan strategik ketenteraan. Jadi ia bukan sekadar merugikan negara tetapi mengancam keselamatan negara.
Nasai said the value of the projects that were supposed to be developed is 4.8 billion ringgit. He said as of December last year, only 5 had been completed. 3 foreigners were arrested on Thursday to facilitate investigations into the murder of a nurse, Siti Karina Muhammad Kamarudin. Selangor Police Chief Datuk Nur Azam Jamaluddin said a 35-year-old Nigerian woman and a Pakistani man aged 38 were arrested on Wednesday, while the third suspect, a Nigerian man in his 30s, was detained at 3 p.m. on Thursday when he was spotted at the lower ground floor of the Chura Central shopping mall. Datuk Nur Azam said 2 of the suspects were arrested in Kuala Lumpur after Siti Karina's partially clothed body was found in a 1-bedroom studio apartment unit in a condominium in Cyberjaya at about 2:30 p.m. on Wednesday. He said all 3 suspects will be remanded on Friday.
Jadi siasatan awal mendapati mayat tersebut adalah mayat Siti Katrina binti Muhammad Kamarudin yang telah dilaporkan hilang sebelum ini. Jadi kes ini kita siasat di bawah Seksyen 302 Kanun Kesiasaan dan pihak forensik telah menjalankan siasatan di tempat kejadian dan telah menjumpai beberapa keterangan fizikal berkaitan dengan kes ini.
Datuk Nur Azam said police are in the midst of establishing the motive of the murder, the relationship between Siti Karina and the suspects, as well as the links between all the suspects. Siti Karina's body was discovered after investigating officers responded to a report made by the unit's landlord, who had spotted blood flowing out from the door. Her body was discovered lying face up on the floor with slash wounds on her chest, neck and head. She was believed to have been dead for 4 to 5 days.
Catch the auto segment every Friday on Nightline. Woo! Wow!
Still to come on Nightline, Customs foil meth smuggling syndicate. The details when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Police have arrested the 3 remaining members of a Daesh-linked terror group believed to be planning attacks and assassinations in Malaysia to avenge the death of fireman Muhammad Adib Muhammad Qasim. Inspector General of Police Datuk Seri Abdul Hamid Badur, in a statement on Thursday, said the trio, 2 Malaysians and 1 Indonesian, who planned to carry out the attacks during Ramadan, were arrested in Kedah and Selangor on Tuesday. Datuk Seri Hamid said the 2 locals were identified as Muhammad Shazani Mahzan and Muhammad Nurul Amin Azizan, both 27 years old. While the Indonesian is a 34-year-old labourer known as Nuruddin Alele, alias Fatir Tir. He said Shazani was suspected to be among those who were planning to launch suicide bomb attacks on non-Muslim houses of worship in the country. Earlier this month, police arrested 4 men, part of a wolf pack, who were planning terror attacks and assassinations in the country. All of them will be charged under the Act 574 of the Penal Code and will be investigated under the Security Offences Special Measures Act 2012. The Royal Malaysian Customs Department foiled an attempt by 2 Indian nationals to smuggle methamphetamine hidden in electrical utensils into the country. Both suspects were arrested separately at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport 2 on Friday and Saturday. The seized items were 19.22 kilograms of methamphetamine worth 961,250 ringgit. Customs Assistant Director for Central Zone, Datuk Zulkarnain Muhammad Yusof, said both suspects, aged 26 and 30 years old, respectively, were arrested when Customs conducted checks on the boxes they were carrying.
Dengan menggunakan modus operandi yang sama, nampak sama lah. Memang sama. Mana kedua-dua dia bawa kotak. Dan di dalamnya mempunyai alat perangkat dasar elektrik. Dan kita sedang menyiasat sama ada ianya ada kaitan antara kedua-dua tersebut. Tapi apa yang kita dapati pada awal ni ialah kedua-duanya berlepas daripada tempat yang berbeza. Yang seorang daripada Kolkata, iaitu Kolkata ni dia dari Southern of India, dan seorang lagi dari Bengaluru.
Datuk Zulkarnain said further investigations found both suspects were using their tourist pass to smuggle the drugs into the country. They were also believed to have received an advance payment of 1,000 ringgit for the purpose. The duo is being investigated under the Dangerous Drugs Act 1952 and could face a mandatory death sentence if found guilty. The Sepang Magistrates Court issued a 7-day remand order to both of them. In Putrajaya, the remand for the chief executive officer of a company who is being investigated for alleged graft involving the supply of military equipment valued at 17 million ringgit has been extended for another 4 days. The 45-year-old CEO will be remanded until May 20th on the order of Magistrate Shahwira Abdul Halim following a request from the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC prosecutors, for extension. Meanwhile, the company's chief financial officer, aged 53, who was arrested together with the CEO on May 12th, has been released on 50,000 ringgit bail with one surety. The two were remanded for investigation into alleged corruption involving the supply of equipment for military armoured vehicles. In Malacca, a lecturer and a contractor have been remanded for 7 days at the Ayakuroh Magistrates Court on Thursday to assist in investigations into a case of false claims involving sports goods worth 261,000 ringgit. The remand order on the 2 suspects, both aged 38, was issued by Magistrate Muhammad Firdaus Saleh. The lecturer was believed to have abetted the contractor to submit false claims for the supply of rugby training items for an educational institution in 2014, amounting to 14,400 ringgit. Preliminary investigations found that there were several false claims made regarding other supply works from 2014 to 2018 involving an estimated value of 204,344 ringgit and 21 sen. Also in Malacca, an unemployed man was charged with raping 2 underaged girls last year at the Accession court on Thursday. The 26-year-old man, however, pleaded not guilty to 3 charges that were read in 2 separate courts before Judge Elizabeth Payawan and Judge Norma Ismail, respectively. He is charged under Section 376, subsection 1 of the Penal Code, which carries a jail term of up to 20 years and whipping if convicted. Over in Terengganu, a jobless man who stabbed an imam for disturbing his sleep was sentenced to 41 months jail by the Besut Magistrates Court on Thursday. Magistrate Raja Nur Shuziana Shakila Raja Mamat meted out the punishment after accused Muhammad Khairil Nawi, 23, pleaded guilty to the offence. The accused, who had previous criminal records in his mitigation, stated that he acted in such a manner after hearing whispers asking him to do so. HIV outbreak sparks panic in Pakistan. The details when we return. Stay tuned. Nightline continues with news on the foreign front. More than 400 people have tested HIV positive in recent weeks following an HIV outbreak in Pakistan due to the use of contaminated syringe by a doctor in a village on the outskirts of Lakhana. According to health officials, about 80% of the patients reportedly are children under the age of 5 years. Following the epidemic, hundreds of people have been ordered to undergo screening at 5 different screening rooms, which have been set up at a makeshift clinic in the Wasaya village in Sindh province. Experts also warned of a surge in infection rates across Pakistan due to the use of unsanitary equipment and rampant malpractice, often at the hands of quack doctors. Up to date, there are reportedly 600,000 quacks operating in the country, with 200,000 of them being present in the province. Earlier this month, police have arrested the doctor who allegedly was responsible for spreading the virus amongst his patients. The accused, Dr. Muzaffar Gangar, who himself is an HIV patient, was employed at a public hospital in Ratodero district of Lakhana. Over in China, over 150 rescue workers were combing through the rubble in downtown Shanghai after the roof of a building caved in on Thursday, killing at least 5 people. It's believed that most of those killed or injured in the accident were construction workers who were renovating the building. The 2-story building in Shanghai's Changning district was undergoing renovation when it collapsed at around 11:30 a.m. local time, trapping more than 20 people. So far, 19 people were pulled from the rubble and were taken to hospital for treatment, where 5 of them succumbed to their injuries. A low-rise building at Changning district had previously been used as a dealership for Mercedes-Benz cars. It is understood that the building was being converted to a commercial complex housing restaurants, shops and offices. The cause of the collapse is still under investigation. Tower in Paris for 3 days as the Iron Lady marked its 130th anniversary since it opened to public on 1889. Visuals of the celebrations at the famed monument wraps up Nightline this time around. With that, I'm Anita Wu. Glad you could join us. Selamat bersahur.